Hey, Stolen Cousins. You already know what time it is. Animated horror stories. Animated horror stories. Mm-mm-mm. If you thought I wasn't going to be here for Halloween, you's a lie. And if you don't know what I am, this this is an official officer at your services. Because I be telling these people in these videos they need to be calling the boys. They don't be calling them fast enough. So here I am, a whole 12 at your service. Ah, happy Halloween, Stolen Cousins. Do me the favor of subscribing, liking the video, commenting, the whole shebang. You see where we are at. We are at our good cousins IMR Scary Tales house. I'm thinking about doing a double IMR Scary Tales slash SSG animation because they both got two good Halloween video. Like it's just how I'm feeling. It's just in my spirit. So I'll figure it out. I'll debate about it. It'll be in my thoughts. I'll keep it up here. So let's jump up into it. As always, go over to IMR Scary Tales house, subscribe, watch some videos, all that. Join the family. And then come back. You should already be subscribed over here, but if you are not, please do so. And let's jump into this video. Trick or Treat Horror Stories Animated 2023. Let's get up in here. Please go grab a blunt, grab a bottle of water, grab a bag of chips, and grab a blanket to be snug. Okay? All right. Boom.
It was the Halloween of 2010. I was only 10 at the time. I was on the cusp of being too old for trick-or-treating, so I aimed to make the most of that night. My costume was of a cowboy. I'd learned from experience that the more detailed the costume, the more candy you get. I was going to hit every house that I could. I expected to get so much that I even brought one of those big black garbage bags to hold the candy in. I was going to make it a night to remember. It was, but not for the reasons I had hoped. I went alone because there were no other kids of my age going trick-or-treating. I knocked on each door and faced the same kind of questions.
Aren't you a little old for trick-or-treating?
No?
Oh, how cute! Never grow up.
Dumbass! So, I got very disappointed. I was running out of houses and all I got was a bag of jelly beans and 2 Snickers, not even a single big bar of chocolate. I was thinking about heading home when I saw this house at the other end of the street. It was the only house that had no Halloween decorations, not even a pumpkin on the porch. But the lights were on, so I thought to give my luck one last try.
Why?
I walked to the house and knocked on the door. No one answered, so I knocked again. Coming! Whoever was inside sounded like he was in a bad mood. I once thought to run away, but his footsteps were so close that I didn't dare to move. I braced myself for something bad to come. The door creaked open and a bunch of fingers followed by a head peeked outside from the dark.
Oh, no.
It was a man, probably of my father's age.
You don't even
He
need
stared
that
me
candy that
down
bad.
and then said, "What do you want?" Trick or treat? Huh. Wait here. I was shocked not to receive judgment at my age. He quickly disappeared into the darkness of the house and then came back with a big chocolate bar. The wrapper was a greenish yellow in coloration, with unknown language written on it. But
No.
still, it was the biggest collection of my night, so I smiled. Here you go. Thank... The man didn't wait for my reply. Feeling a little weirded by his behavior, I waited on the porch for a few more seconds. I looked to my left and the man was standing near the window, staring into my eyes. I felt so scared seeing him watch me like this. It was as if he desperately wants me to leave. Because if I don't leave, he might have to do something bad to me. When I still didn't move, he opened the window enough for me to hear his voice and said, "Go home. My kid'll be back any minute. Go, now." Feeling a sudden jerk in my body, I started to run. I came back to my street and was panting in fear. Kids were still trick-or-treating. I sat down on the bench on the sidewalk to take a break. I was sweating in fear. A few moments later, when I finally calmed down, I shrugged off the encounter with that crazy man. I took out one Snicker and started chomping on it. I needed some energy badly. Once I was done, I got up and threw the wrapper in the dumpster at the corner when I saw that man again. He was standing on the other side of the road. His eyes were big and they were searching for me. Among all the running kids, he was trying to locate me. I didn't want to get seen by him, so I quickly turned my back to him and grabbed my candy bag from the bench. I started walking to my house, which was at the end of the street. Each time I looked back, I could see the man still searching for me. When I left the crowd of kids, I heard running footsteps behind me. I looked back in horror, and the man was coming towards me at full speed. Oh no, he found me. I started running too. I looked back the second time and the man yelled, "Stop! I won't hurt you! Stop!" But I was in no plan to stop. I would have reached my house if two kids riding a bike didn't come out from the left side of the road. They made me trip and went past me. I fell on the floor. I cut my jaw and got bruises on my knees. I quickly turned around to see that man standing right next to me. He crouched down over my face and snatched the garbage bag from my hand. He emptied the bag on my face, with the big chocolate bar hitting me last on the face. He took the chocolate bar he gave me and said, "This was for my son! You can't have it!" Then, he took out a Snicker and threw it at me. "Happy Halloween!" He gave one last smile and walked away, leaving in trauma and shock for life. I didn't come out the next day, not even when I heard the cops. I saw it all in the news and later heard from my parents. The man who chased me and took back his candy turned out to be the murderer of his little son. He fed his son poisoned candy as a gift for his Halloween. The news showed the half-eaten candy lying on the kitchen floor where the cops found the poor kid's body. That was my last trick-or-treating.
As it should have been. You could just buy the candy after that. It's crazy because they don't have the true clip. That's based on truth. A man really did poison his child. But he poisoned his child and a few other
Trick or treat!
Hi, Jeremy. I didn't know you were going to be a dinosaur this year.
Do you like my costume?
Are you kidding? I love your costume. Say thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Robin.
You're most welcome. Now, let me get some candy for you. I'm going to give you the big bars because I love your Halloween costume the most. Don't give him too much candy.
No, I want the candies, Mom.
Showed him up.
It's okay, Mrs. Donovan. After all, it's Halloween. Best time to spoil the kids a little.
Girl.
So what are your plans tonight? Attending any Halloween party? No, Mrs. Donovan. I think I'll just stay home tonight. Okay, have a safe night. Happy Halloween, Robin.
Happy Halloween!
Have fun, Jeremy, and don't eat your candy all at once. It might give you a tummy ache.
And will.
I won't.
Good night then. Good night, Mrs. Donovan. Be careful tonight. Don't open your door to strangers, okay? Don't worry, Mrs. Donovan. I'm a big girl. I think I can take care of myself. Of course you can.
But still. The way she doubled back and held your door. You better listen to her.
Hey, I'm back. I thought someone kidnapped you. Shut up. What? It's possible. Halloween is like the 4th of July for these creeps.
Why
Do
would
you
you
know
say
how
that?
much the crime rate rises during this time? Oh, come on. Can we talk about something else? First Mrs. Donovan, and now you.
Because it's true.
Who's Mrs.
Girl, be
Donovan?
careful.
My neighbor. She was warning me to not open doors to strangers and all. Who's that? Remember to check through the eye hole first.
Please.
Yeah, right. Because Michael Myers is waiting for me on the other side of the door.
Oh,
You
gonna
never
piss me off.
know. Enough with your crap. I'll be back in a sec.
Who is it?
What the?
Nope. Don't open it.
Holy smokes.
Look it through the peephole again. Hell no. Hell no.
Wait a second. Is that a man dressed in a baby costume?
And is.
Trick or treat!
No. Get your ass off my porch.
I know you're watching me. Time to give candies to a trick-or-treater.
No.
Who are you?
What do you mean? I told you I came for the candies.
I don't have
but
any.
you look way past the age for trick-or-treating.
Are you blind? Don't you see I'm wearing a baby costume? Can I get my candies now?
Boy,
Oh God,
I
just
don't
because
have
you're
none.
dressed as a baby on Halloween doesn't make you less of an old creep. Now get the hell away from my house.
You should have given me the candies like you were giving to the other kids.
No. Get the fuck off my porch.
Hello, Robin. What's taking so long?
Some creepy
This
ass
man,
men's
dude,
at my-
he was being
what?
so
All at her
creepy.
door?
What, man? I thought you were giving candies to kids. I expected to see a kid when the doorbell rang, but instead it was a grown-ass man dressed like a baby. Whoa, that's weird. Seems like the old dude just wanted to spook you. Told you Halloween is 4th of July for creeps. Yeah, no doubt. You didn't open the door, right? Of course not. Is he gone now?
No.
Well, I don't see him anymore. Good, just make sure to lock your windows too. Yeah, I think I should go to bed now. Just want this night to end. Fine, talk to you tomorrow then.
All this over some damn candy, boy. Go to the next house.
Who's there?
Go to the store with your grown ass. Hell no.
How did you get in?
You should have listened to your friend when she told you to lock the windows.
Oh, hell no. Not your big ass climbing in the window.
Please, please don't hurt me.
Trick or treat!
Girl? Why are you falling?
Happy Halloween!
Oh. Y'all make sure.
Nana Mildred is the reason I stopped celebrating Halloween. Chrissy Mildred,
Call her Nana.
known to everyone as Nana Mildred, was the kindest,
call her
sweetest
Nana.
old lady in
Nana.
existence. She lived in a little green house at the top of the town surrounded by forest. There was a path that wound through the woods, all the way up to the hill to her driveway. I always felt somewhat unnerved being around Nana Mildred. Maybe it was the way she walked all hunched over, her arms bent at the elbows like a gorilla. She had gray hair that stuck out in all directions. She was so pale that I could see her veins under her wrinkled, dry skin. Her fingers seemed unnaturally long and thin. I remember the first time my mom took me to her. Her little green house smelled like lavender and mothballs, and the rooms were lined with photos of children. Some of the photos were in black and white or faded like they'd been taken many years ago. Are these all your children, Nana Mildred? She smiled and looked around the room.
These are all my lovely babies.
Afterward, as my mother and I walked down the path, hand in hand, I told her how amazing I thought it was that one person could have so many children. She just laughed at me.
They aren't her kids. Nana Mildred never had children of her own. Those were photos of other orphan kids she used to house.
Why does she have photos of those kids?
Because she raised them all her life and they all went their way. Is it wrong to carry her memories through those kids' pictures?
Have you been to her orphanage?
No, it was in the city. She sold the place before moving here.
The rest of the way, we didn't say anything. The next day was
Y'all said
Halloween,
enough.
and it was my first year of going to trick-or-treating. My friend Spencer lived at the end of the street. Together, we planned to go to each house and collect as much candy as possible. When my dad dropped me off at his doorstep in my pirate costume, complete with an eye patch, black marker goatee, and stuffed parrot stuck to my shoulder, Spencer was already outside, sitting on the front porch. He was going as Thor. His fake long blonde hair was made out of his mother's old wig, which made him look pretty funny. And the expression on his face, I could tell he wasn't very happy with the outcome of the homemade costume. Hello, Elsa? Shut up, let's go. Once my father's car rolled out of sight, Spencer grabbed me by the arm and pulled me under this tree on the sidewalk. Listen, you have to help me pull something off. You mean your fake hair? Enough of your stupid jokes. Turner dared me to prank Nana Mildred. I got serious because Turner was our arch rival, and I never really liked Nana Mildred either, so I said, "What do you have in mind?" I was thinking to sneak inside her house from the back door while you keep her busy, and then I'll mess up her bathroom. What? You want me to talk to her while you do all that crazy stuff? Fine, I'll do it alone. Spencer started walking towards Nana Mildred's house. I saw him going up the winding road and never turning back at me, not even once. Once he went away from my eyes, I realized I can't let him walk into this situation alone. My brotherly instinct kicked in, and I started running up the hill. When I reached the uphill road, I saw Turner going to the backside of her house from the garden. God, he's gonna get us both in trouble. I slowly walked up to her and hid behind this big tree right next to her house. I watched Nana Mildred from her window. She was standing in the living room, pretty still. There was a table in front of her. Suddenly, she picked up a pumpkin head and placed it on the table. But before I could make out what she was up to, Nana Mildred lifted her hand, and what looked like a screwdriver grasped tightly, and she started stabbing the pumpkin in random, fierce motions. I've never seen an old lady having such strong hands before. As I watched her silently behaving like a psycho, I got goosebumps. Suddenly, she turned her head at the back of the house and she paused. I felt my stomach dropped. Did she see Turner sneaking from the back door?
No, she heard
Nana Mildred walked inside the house and I got more worried. I tiptoed to her porch and
Boy, if you don't knock on that door,
window.
oh my God, Nana.
I backed away screaming. Nana Mildred moved away from the window and now I could hear her unlocking the main door. I was so struck down by fear that I forgot to run away. She opened the door and eyed me from top to bottom.
What do you want, kiddo?
Trick or treat?
Do you want the candies?
Yes, please.
No, I just came to wish you happy Halloween.
I see.
Suddenly, I saw Turner crawling on the floor. Thinking he has managed to sneak inside her house, I tried my best to distract the creepy old lady. Nana Mildred, does any of your kids come to see you this Halloween? Her face went sad, and she said,
They've all forgotten about me.
Aww.
We stood there, maintaining this award silence for 5 seconds, and then Nana Mildred's face changed. She had this evil smile.
But you know what? I haven't forgotten them. I remember each one of them.
Just then, my eyes went back to Turner, and I realized something was wrong with him. He wasn't moving anymore, just lay down on the floor like he had fallen asleep. Nana Mildred slowly turned her head towards Turner. There was no shock in her eyes upon seeing him. It was as if she already knew what will happen to someone if they tried to enter her house forcefully.
He will sleep like this for the entire night. Can you carry him home?
Nana Mildred opened the door and gestured for me to go in. I wanted to run away, but I couldn't leave my friend like that. I picked up, turned, and saw he was shot with a dart gun attached to the back door. Nana Mildred had set up a booby trap. After that night, we never went near her house. Turner woke up with a terrible headache and body pain the next morning. He never pranked anyone after that.
But not. I wonder what she was doing to the damn kids. You know, because the way she was chatting, she was doing some sort of damn kids. You know, she was doing some crazy. Switching it up. In the pumpkin seed. Happy Halloween to you. No. You know, I love a good intro change. You know, our intros
On the
don't stay the
31st of
same
October every year,
because
I lock
I
my
do.
doors and ignore the children who knock at my door for candy.
Okay.
I hate the holiday so much, as
Gets
it makes me
rude with
relive
it.
hell, and the horrific tale you're about to hear will tell you why.
Okay, explain.
I had just bought a newly remodeled house, and as I stood in the hallway of my new home, only 2 words ran through my mind. It's beautiful.
Okay.
I had been eyeing the house for a while now. And immediately after I got an opportunity to buy it, I
You
did.
bought it.
The house wasn't only beautiful, it had a reasonable price too. There had apparently been a few strange incidents with the house in the past, most of which I didn't know the details of. However, due to those incidents, the house's value had drastically reduced, which was one of the many incentives to get it in the first place.
Okay.
I didn't really care about the crazy things that had happened with the house in the past, as I knew I was going to make
You
new
always
and happy
need to know the
memories
history
there.
on the house.
Buying the house and
I
moving
don't
into
care
a new
how good the
neighborhood
house looks.
was the beginning
How
of a
cute
fresh
it
start
is.
for me and
You
my
need to know the
2-year-old son,
history.
Jamie.
Because people be dying in these
Being a
houses.
single father wasn't easy, but my little boy was the light of my life,
Oh,
and
look
I
at 'em.
swore to give him the
Looking
best
just
that I
like you.
could. The first few months were perfect. I had completely settled down, and I made a lot of friends around the neighborhood.
Sounds great.
After the summer, autumn was fast approaching, and with it, the Halloween season. Decorations began to go up, and I became excited to spend my first Halloween in the new neighborhood. It was on the 31st of October, 1998. The day started out great as people in costumes filled the streets. By the time it was 5:30, I began to hear knocking at the door. I opened the door to see the cutest children in costumes.
No.
They all had big smiles on their faces as they said, "Trick or treat." I gladly obliged, and I gave them as much candy as they wanted. As the hours passed by, the knocks on the door just kept coming. I didn't complain as the sight warmed my heart, and I began to think how adorable Jamie will be when he's old enough to dress up and go out for his trick-or-treating.
At that point, you're
I kept
supposed
giving
to,
candy to the children till it was
dress
really
him
late.
up and bring him
And
out.
at around 10 p.m., the
You
knocks on
give
the
him
door
the
had stopped.
lollipops, and that's when you get to
I was
eat the
also
candy.
finally out of candy, so I decided to call it a night. I turned off the lights in the living room before going to put my son to bed. After that, I brushed my teeth and I went to bed. I'd only been asleep for a few minutes before I was abruptly awoken by loud knocks at the door. I looked at the clock beside my bed, and it was 12:01 a.m. I was shocked as I wondered who could be knocking at this hour.
Yeah.
I eventually went down to check, and when I opened the door, I saw a strange child holding a bag of candy. It was dark, so I couldn't make out the little boy's face, but I could tell something was off with this child. Before I could
That's
say
the one with that
anything,
Benjamin
the
Button.
child looked
The
me
old
dead
ass
in the eye
man.
and said, "Trick or treat."
Yep. He
I could tell there was
85.
something wrong with his voice as it sounded a bit distorted. I was also completely baffled to see a child out this time without his parents, so I said,
'Cause he's not a
"It's
child,
really late,
he's
buddy.
85.
Where are your parents?" "You should get on home. I'm already out of candy." As I said before, I couldn't see the child's face well, but I could tell that he was angry at the fact that I didn't have any candy to give. I then watched him bring out a shiny object and repeat the words. Trick or treat.
Not you about to stab him over no damn
I couldn't
candy?
make out what it was, but it looked like the child had brought out a toy knife. I chuckled at his attempt to threaten me before saying, "You know, it's not nice to threaten people with knives, even if they're fake. The knife is supposed to match your costume, and it's not supposed to be used for threatening people who don't have candy to give. It's not safe out here, kid,
You know,
and this
acting like
really
that's a
isn't the time for
85-year-old
scary
man.
pranks." The child didn't respond at this time, as he just stood there staring at me with a hint of anger in his eyes.
Because that man is 42.
I assumed he was still trying to pull a prank on me, so I told him to go back home, again, before closing the door. I made my way upstairs, thinking about how odd the experience I just had was, but before I could reach my room, I began to hear noises coming from my living room. Thinking there were burglars, I rushed down to see what was going on, but when I reached there, I saw the child that I'd just seen outside standing in my living room.
He's not a child and you better be ready to fight.
Horrified, I screamed, "How the hell did you get in here? I'm calling your parents now, and you're gonna be in so much trouble, young man." Before I could reach my phone, the child charged at me. I wanted to attack, but I hesitated because I didn't want to hit a child, and that's when I felt a sharp pain in my left leg. I looked down to see the child had stabbed me through my leg with a jagged knife, and now he was trying to take my entire leg off. The pain was unbearable, but I managed to kick the boy away, and that's when I realized that the person in my house wasn't a child.
That's what I've been
I could
saying.
tell by the force of the kick and the weight of the intruder that it wasn't a little kid. I could see his face a bit better now, but I couldn't recognize it. I then watched the man run towards the back of the house. I tried to follow, but the blade was still in my leg and I couldn't move well. A few seconds after he'd left, the smell of fuel started to fill the room.
He's trying to burn
I then saw the man take out a lighter,
fire?
and before I could utter a single word,
He's trying to
my
burn your
entire house
house
went up in
your house on
flames.
fire?
It was a
Over
wooden
some damn
house,
candy?
so within seconds, the fire had spread everywhere, and I was surrounded by flames.
Where's your son
I watched in
at?
horror as my home began to burn.
Oh,
I looked
Lord,
around
where's
for the
your
man,
son at?
but it was as if he had disappeared into thin air.
Fuck him,
I
where's
then
your
began
son
to hear
at?
little screams from upstairs, and I realized my son was still in his room, so I screamed out his name before rushing upstairs to his room.
Okay, you better.
Every step I took sent unbelievable pain through my body, but I didn't care. I had to save my son. Before I could reach the door, a huge chunk of burning debris fell from the roof and blocked my path. I tried to maneuver the blockade, but there was no way around it. I tried to get back down the stairs to get some help, but the stairway was blocked too. The flames were everywhere now, and the ceiling had begun to crumble around me.
All this
In
over
that
candy?
moment, I felt nothing but pain and despair as Jamie's screams filled the house. There are no words to explain how I felt hearing my own son die and not being able to do anything about it. The smoke began to rise and breathing became extremely hard.
Oh.
I then started to choke
All
as I
this over
fell to the floor.
candy? Why you
The
even
world
open
around
that
me
damn
then started
door
to fade away,
after 12
and
o'clock?
as I was about to give in, I felt strong arms grab a hold of me and pick me up from the floor. The following seconds were a blur, but before I knew it, I was out of the house and surrounded by firefighters.
And they ain't never
As
gonna
they
catch
took me
that
away
damn
from the
man.
house, I screamed, "My son is still inside! Please help him!" The firefighters tried to go back in, but the house had already started to collapse on itself, and I knew it was hopeless. As I watched the house crumble with my son in it, I felt a piece of me die, and I couldn't do anything but cry my heart out. I was eventually rushed to the
All this
hospital
over
to remove
candy.
the blade that was still in my leg.
You ain't
I had
take it
already
out?
lost a lot of blood, and while the doctors were able to stop the bleeding, they weren't able to save the leg. This period was the worst time in my
You had to
life,
take your leg,
as all I
dude.
felt was constant grief and pain.
God.
It wasn't long before my grief turned into anger, as I always cursed the person who was responsible. The authorities had already gone through the remains of my house, and they found and retrieved my son's charred corpse. As messed up as it sounds, I was hoping the intruder had died in the deadly
I
fire
hope
he
you
started,
did,
and
too.
knowing he escaped
I was
filled
thinking
me
that
with
too.
rage.
I ain't lying.
I begged the
I was
authorities
hoping
to
that
do
that
everything
was
they
his
could
body.
to find him and bring him to justice. I was later told to describe the individual I'd seen to the police sketch artist to help them start the investigation. I tried my best to properly describe every detail I could remember, as I didn't see his face well. It took us about 3 hours for the sketches to be finished, and when it was done, the man was identified as Nikolai Anatoly, a
Okay,
wanted serial
you
killer
found
who was
him.
widely known as the Bloody Midget. Nikolai
The
was a
Bloody
40-year-old
Midget?
deranged killer that measured a little over 4 feet. He had been at large for the last 6 years, and the authorities had been looking for him all over the country.
Oh, wow.
The
That's
police
crazy.
record showed that
Already
he
on
usually
the
killed
run.
his victims by cutting off their legs and letting them bleed to death. Many detectives who worked on the case believed Nikolai was one of the most disturbed killers they had ever come across, as they found out the reason he cut off people's legs was because he wanted to bring everyone down to his size.
Yeah, you can figure
That
that
explained
out.
why he attacked my leg with a knife.
That's crazy.
Additional police records also showed that
I'm
Nikolai
tall.
was very active during
So he would
Halloween,
try to cut off
as he would
these
often
legs.
dress up as a child and
That's
kill
wild.
unsuspecting adults who opened their doors for him, in addition to many defenseless children who were out trick-or-treating. He had already killed over 53 children and 34 adults. These records would also
killing
reveal
kids
that
and
Nikolai Anatoly and his uncle, Dominique Anatoly, had lived in my house in the early 90s. The pair often terrorized the neighborhood, and during an altercation with the police,
He killed
Dominique
his
was
uncle?
killed and Nikolai fled. From
Mm.
that day, Nikolai had carried a grudge against that particular neighborhood and the people who moved into the house after it was taken from him and his uncle.
You see? And that's
That's
why
why
you
he
need to know the
targeted my
history on the
house,
house.
as he usually terrorized the people who had lived there in the past. This was apparently one of the reasons why the
He's
house
gonna
was
burn
sold
the house
cheaply,
down eventually.
as due to the repeated violent incidents with
What did I
Nikolai,
say?
not many
What did I
people
say?
wanted it.
Cheap
After
and
learning all
bullshit.
this, I immediately blamed myself for not looking into the history of the house I bought,
You can
or
only
the
blame
area
yourself.
I was moving
I
into.
said get the
The guilt was
information for the
unbearable,
house. That's your
but
fault
the
for not
authorities calmed
listening.
me down by telling me it wasn't my fault, and they assured me that they would do everything they
Don't
could
lie
to
to this
find
man.
Nikolai
It's
and
his
bring him to
fault.
justice.
It is his fault.
A massive manhunt was then carried out in the surrounding area to find Nikolai. But no matter how hard the authorities tried, Nikolai was never found.
What did I say?
I
said
held
they
on
wasn't
and
a-
waited for justice for a very long time. But it never came, and after burying my son, I left my town to pick up the pieces of my life somewhere else. Every day is a constant struggle, and
That's
I've
crazy.
thought about ending it all, but I have to live to remember my son Jamie.
All this over candy.
The 31st of October is
no,
coming up
it's not
once
over.
again,
Well, it was over
and to
candy.
those who are
In
hearing
reality,
this,
all this over
I warn
candy.
you,
Over
be
candy
careful who you
because
open
don't
the door
wanna
to this
know the
Halloween,
history to your damn
because it's not only little children who roam our streets looking for candy.
It's creepy ass people too.
The story you just heard was loosely based on
a
the real-life case of
true-
Bradley Chopper Smith. Born on the 5th of
Bradley
July,
Chopper.
1911, in San Diego, California. Bradley Smith is the only
Born
documented
when?
of July 1911 in San Diego. Lee Chopper Smith. Born on the 5th of July 1911 in San Diego,
Damn,
California.
he had cancer acting
Bradley
like
Smith
that?
is the only documented midget
That's why
serial
he's
killer
so
in the United States
emotional.
history.
He don't know how to act. He just over here, you killing people. Okay, we don't know his story.
The
'cause
story
the
you just
story
heard was
based on the
loosely
truth.
based on the
Let's
real-life
hear his
case
story
of
so we can judge
Bradley
him
Chopper
officially.
Smith.
But that's crazy.
Born
You
on the
with
5th
cancer
of
acting
July,
like that? Don't be
1911,
doing
in
that.
San
Take that
Diego,
online.
California. Bradley Smith is the only documented midget serial killer in the United States history. His recorded height was 4 feet 2 inches, and he weighed about 80 pounds. During his active years, Bradley was given a disturbing nickname by the authorities. They called him the Chopper, because he would murder his victims and mutilate their corpses by chopping off their legs at the knees. Detectives stated, Bradley was a very psychologically disturbed man who wanted everyone else to be a midget.
That's crazy.
He often targeted people who were larger than normal height because he wanted to bring them down to size.
Oh, that's
Numerous
disrespectful.
investigations revealed he had brutally killed a total of 31 people over the height of 6'2". These records
Oh,
also
no.
showed Bradley used a variety of weapons to
See, that's gonna be an issue with me because I'm 5'10" and people be like, "Oh no, you 6 foot, you 6 foot." He's killing people 6 foot and over. He would have seen me and been like, "But you're 6'1", and I would be like, "No, Bradley, I'm only 5'10". Get out of here." You see, but the issue with them people is they thought his ass was a kid, and they're like, "Oh no, I'm not about to beat up no kid. I'ma fuck the kid up." Kid outside your house with a knife. What are you talking about? If you don't punch that kid in his face, kick him in his chest, he's 4'2". What are you really 4'2", 80 pounds? And he killed 30 plus people that was 6'2". They thought they was fighting a child. Me? I fights kids. I was just fighting my nephew the other day. I was flipping him. Boom. They should have just flipped him. My nephew probably about 40, 50 pounds. Just 30 more on top of that. You could flip him. 4'2", 80 pounds. Y'all got him out here. He got y'all bodies on his head. They got his nickname as the Chopper. He's out there.
Numerous
Oh, wow.
investigations revealed he had brutally killed a total of 31 people over the height of
31
6'2".
people.
These records also showed Bradley used a variety of weapons to kill his victims, but his favorite murder weapon was a chainsaw, as he enjoyed cutting bodies with them.
That's crazy.
Ironically,
I have an
Bradley
uncle
would
that's
later die at the
6'7".
blades of a
Got another
chainsaw
one
on
that's
the 11th of
6'12".
October, 1949, at the age of 38. The detective's records show that he apparently stumbled on a victim he was dismembering with his chainsaw, causing him to be impaled in the frontal lobe with the chainsaw's blades.
Oh wow.
Till today,
Okay.
Bradley
Instant karma.
Chopper Smith is still considered by many detectives to be one of the cruelest serial killers the United States has ever seen.
Yeah, because he would have kept going. He would have definitely kept going if he ain't stepped in front of that chainsaw. I love a good
Halloween.
instant karma.
When this time of year comes around, I always have get-togethers and parties with my friends where we celebrate this spooky date. I must admit, this is one of my favorite holidays, although it wasn't always that way. When I was a kid, I never wanted to go to any Halloween party, and I didn't go out trick-or-treating with my friends. I used to stay home and watch horror movies. I was very scared, so I don't remember why I watched them so much. I was happy with this lifestyle until something happened, and I never wanted to spend Halloween at home again.
Just the concept.
That day I was at home on Halloween night. I was babysitting my younger brother while my parents took my other brother with his friends to a Halloween party. I was already 13 years old, so I could be left alone. Nothing could have prepared me for what was coming next, though.
Don't open that door.
My parents were gone, and my brother had fallen asleep on the couch.
You 13.
I was watching Friday the 13th, the typical Halloween movie. I was kind of bored since I had seen that movie several times, and Jason wasn't a really scary villain. I was distracted, looking at the ceiling, until something caught my eye. Someone was tapping on the window next to me. Who could it be?
Lying.
The window was covered with a curtain, so I couldn't see who it was.
See me, I would have thought that was a ghost.
It could be a child, but I was no fool.
Yeah, it's not about to be.
I knew that approaching this window at this time of night was a big mistake. Especially on Halloween night, when a bunch of teenagers were sure to try to scare me. I kept watching the movie, ignoring the sound, but to my surprise, the sound continued. The banging went on, and after a few minutes, I had had enough.
Just don't open the curtain.
I decided to put on a horrible mask of terror and went to the window. When I opened the curtain, I was going to be the one to scare the person on the other side. I heard a few seconds more as someone knocked on the window and laughing in anticipation. I suddenly opened it and threw myself towards the closed window with my mask. And that's when I got my first surprise. There was no one on the other side.
Hurry up and close the damn window before they grab you.
How is this possible? I opened it as soon as I heard the knocking. Suddenly, someone started ringing the doorbell at the main entrance. Normally, I would think that these were just other kids asking for candy. But after what had just happened, I was scared. I slowly approached the door, inspecting from afar to make sure the key was in place. Once I was there, I pulled back the window curtain and reached out to see who was behind it. To my surprise, no one was there.
Okay, sit down.
When I turned around, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was a person with a pumpkin for a head. Even though I couldn't see his eyes, it was easy to tell that he saw me perfectly, since his head was pointing straight at me. As soon as he realized I was looking at him, the hideous man knocked on the window again, calling out to me to open it mockingly.
No.
In desperation, I ran to the seat and woke my brother. When he opened his eyes, I looked at the window again, and he was gone. My brother was still somewhat small and innocent, so when I told him what had happened, he didn't need any proof that what I told him was real. He was as terrified and scared as I was. My first reaction was to call the police and run away, but I didn't have time because I heard something from the kitchen. Oh no, the back door. Mom and Dad told you to lock it. I know, I forgot. Let's go, now. At this, we both started running up the stairs to lock ourselves in my room. Once we got inside, I closed the door and started to lock it with furniture. We were on a locked second floor and the doors were totally blocked. There was no way anyone or anything could get in and hurt us. Had that man broken the generator? I stood there nervous, thinking about my next move. The place was really very dark, as if the darkness and blackness had devoured all the light in the place for total darkness. At that moment, I was calmer, because I knew he was probably doing this to intimidate me since there was no way he could enter the room on his own. My mischievous smile stopped instantly when I saw something walk around the room from one side to the other. This was not my brother, as his body was like this, and he was next to me. It was something bigger. Much bigger.
You got 2 doors up in there?
For some reason, my eyes could not adjust to the darkness, and I still could not see. Nor was it time to remove the furniture that covered the door, because the moment I did that, this strange silhouette would surely do something to me. Suddenly, something grabbed my feet from under the bed and started pulling, trying to pull me under. I tried as hard as I could to stop it, but it was no use. The force was really too much.
Body would have
I could see how the hands that were pulling me were fat, black, and hairy. Like under the bed, there would be a demon pulling me into the depths of hell. Instead, the pumpkin-headed man stared at me. His terrifying dark eyes pointed at me. In a last attempt to get out, I kicked as hard as I could towards the pumpkin, but nothing worked. I could only watch as the thing that wanted me under the bed kept pulling until it got me.
So how'd you get
Suddenly,
out?
a ray of light invaded the whole room.
Oh, that's your
It was my parents. I looked in the direction of the bedroom door, and they opened the door despite the obstacles with great ease. Maybe that door was not ready to stop anyone. I told them everything that happened, and concerned, they told me that I was alone all night and that what I was seeing attacking me did not really exist. I tried to tell them that my brother saw everything, but they told me that I did not spend the night with my brother. They took him away. I was really alone in the house.
What?
Nervous and thinking I was going to go crazy, I sat down and let my parents tell me what they wanted to tell me. On Halloween last year, I suffered a drunken attack from my uncle at a Halloween party. At that time, he was supposed to keep me and my brother, but he kept drinking until he tried to beat up my brother. For interceding, I took the beating. At that moment, I was proud that I did it because if my little brother had been beaten as I had been, he might not be alive. Do you want more details of what happened that night?
Yeah.
The man was in disguise at all times. Do you know what? A man with a pumpkin head. When my parents came home, they had a big fight, and my uncle ended up in jail. I had to be hospitalized quickly, and although my body eventually healed, my head did not.
Okay.
I spent the first few days thinking I saw my uncle ready to attack me. A few moments later, I would remember everything that had happened, only to forget it all a few hours later. With time, I began to feel better. But what neither I nor my parents knew was that being on Halloween would take me back to that night, and it would all start over again. Today, I am an adult. I would be lying to you if I said I'm completely over it. I mean, I still have some nightmares from that horrible night, and I really prefer never to leave my kids alone. I go to every Halloween party I'm invited to, and I take my kids. I was never going to be left alone on that day again. My uncle got out of jail soon after, but some offenses made his sentence get bigger and bigger.
Okay.
He never apologized. Want a moral of what happened? Have fun on Halloween. Don't be afraid to do what you like. The real monster does not appear on these dates, but is with you every day. The monster is always a human, and it can be anyone, even a member of your family.
It can be spitting true facts.
This is based on a true story.
Okay, we love them.
This is a very scary incident that happened to me exactly a year ago on Halloween. You know how everyone is excited to celebrate Halloween, right? Now multiply that excitement tenfold because you know it's your senior year, and next year you and many of your friends may or may not get together to celebrate again.
Yeah.
So now I'm in college celebrating Halloween with my new friends. But everywhere I go, I can't help but think about last year's Halloween, and I get the creeps.
What happened?
So this is what happened. I just got my driver's license, and I didn't have my own car, so I borrowed my dad's to go to a party. I'd just broken up with my girlfriend, so I was looking forward to the party. My dad was a pretty chill guy. He knew I'd need the car and had taught me to drive himself, so he was confident that I was a good driver. So he let me use his car whenever I wanted. He was also my good friend, so I never got into any kind of trouble. He was the first person I always called. Unlike other kids in my school with absent or shitty fathers, I considered myself pretty lucky. So around 6 in the evening, I drove to one of my friends' houses where we were having the party. Although no one except a few of my close friends had arrived, we decided to start the party early. Just a few of us, all seniors, enjoying the last Halloween by ourselves. We had a few drinks. I know underage drinking is illegal, but we didn't care. We wanted to have fun, get wasted, and make memories. Soon 6 turned into 7, and 7 turned into 8, and every square inch of my friend's house was
Y'all was
occupied
drinking
by
at
drunk
6 o'clock?
teenagers dressed as various characters and dancing to loud
That's
music.
where y'all messed up.
I was having the best time of my life. Me and my boys were dancing, drinking, and taking selfies and whatnot. Around 1 in the morning, the party started to slow down. Many kids were leaving, especially the juniors, and I decided to leave as well. Even though we didn't have school the following day, I knew I had to get home at some point. I wasn't so drunk that I wouldn't be able to drive. I said goodbye to all my friends and started driving my father's car back home. Now, you must know we didn't come from a big town.
Okay.
It's a small place on the foothill of the Rocky Mountains. So forest and wildlife are part and parcel of the life of folks living in my town. Every other day you'd hear news of someone hitting an animal while driving through the town. This was because we were so close to the woods. My house in particular is a bit secluded from the rest of the town, as my parents preferred privacy over convenience. So I was on the road at around 3 a.m., and as I drove closer to my home, nothing but dense trees were lining the road, and only the headlights of my car illuminated it. Now, you must know I had driven on this road long enough to know every single turn and speed bump. So when something suddenly crashed into the right side of my car and veered my car into the opposite lane, you can imagine how scared I was. I was shaking as I barely managed to stop the car from going off the road. I just sat in the car, still for a minute or two,
Don't get out.
just grasping what had happened just a few moments before. Although I knew this area was prone to such accidents, I wondered which animal had crashed into my car that almost knocked the vehicle off the road. Also, the animal must be lying somewhere nearby, probably extremely injured.
It's not.
I jumped out of my car to check out the damage, and oh my God, the car's hood and most of the right side had a huge dent in it. It was a miracle that the headlights were still on and illuminating the road before me. I pulled out my flashlight and checked out the whole car. There were no more dents or scratches anywhere, but I knew the repairs would cost my parents a small fortune. Then I started looking for the animal that hit me. Was it a big deer or a moose, perhaps? It was quiet out there, so I tried to hear the cries of an injured
I don't
animal.
know why you
but
got out the car.
I heard nothing.
You said it hit
Finally,
you, not
I
you
decided to
hit
call
it.
my dad. It was pretty late, but I knew my dad would pick up. After about 3 rings, he did.
Aw, great dad.
Hey, son. Did you forget your keys again? He said in a sleepy voice. No, Dad. I'm on my way back, and I think an animal hit the car. You got into an accident? Now he was all alert. Well, I'm not hurt or anything. I couldn't see what hit the car, but it sure was a big animal, as it almost knocked the car off the road. I barely managed to stay on it. In the background, I could hear him get up from the bed and walk into the living room. I'm video calling you right now. With that, he cut the call. A second later, we were on the video call.
And he told you
I
to get
started
out the
showing Dad the condition of the car and the big-ass dent on the hood and the right side. Hey, son, you didn't tell me you'd be bringing a girl home. I knew he'd be pissed that I got into an accident, but right now he was teasing me? What girl, Dad? What are you talking about? I'm alone out here.
Demon.
I was alone in the car and on the road as well. There was no one with me. I opened the passenger side door, which was smashed as well. She's pretty. Is she from your school? Were you dropping her off at her place after the party? Dad asked me. Dad, what are you talking about? I don't get it. I was seriously confused, as this was not the time nor the situation to joke.
He's not joking.
Something
You
changed
can't
in
see
his expression, and he suddenly became serious. Okay, son. Yeah, the car is pretty beat up, but don't worry. I need you to sit in the car and wait for me. I'll get Tony's towing to pick you and the car up. I'll be there in a few minutes. Stay put. Sure, Dad. Thanks. You're the best. And with that, I ended the video call and sat in the car. Almost 20 minutes later, I saw 2 big headlights approaching my car from a distance. I knew it would be Dad and Uncle Tony, our neighbor who owned a towing company. I got out of the car and stood waiting for them. The first thing my dad did was hug me and checked if I had any injuries. I'm fine, Dad. I'm not hurt. Well, I'm glad you're okay. Let's get you and the car out of here.
Who was he seeing?
Dad and Uncle Tony hooked up the car to the back of the truck, and we got into the truck and drove home.
He gonna explain?
When we reached the house, Mom was still fast asleep, but instead of going straight to bed, I asked Dad what he meant by bringing home a girl.
Exactly.
He looked at me for a minute with a serious expression I couldn't decipher. Were you just joking with me back there? Sit down, son. There's something I need to tell you. I sat down as he had asked. Now, I didn't tell you this on the video call because I didn't want to freak you out, but when we were on the video call and you were showing me the car and all the damage, I saw a beautiful girl standing right behind you. Then when you opened the passenger side door, the girl was right there, sitting on the passenger seat. But you kept on saying that you were alone, and most importantly, you looked so confused when I mentioned the girl. So I decided to let you be instead of telling you the truth. Plus, I wanted you to be safe. That's the reason I asked you to sit in the car instead of waiting on the road for me. I don't think any animal hit the car, son.
It was a demon?
It was something else.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I got off the phone, I walked up to Tony's, all the while praying for your safety. I just wanted you to be safe. Now, go to bed and we'll talk more about it in the morning. I was so stunned that I just went to my room and crashed on my bed. That night I had a dream of the accident. Only this time I had a beautiful girl sitting in the passenger seat. And as soon as the thing or the animal hit the car, the girl died on impact and her limp body just lay there in the seat while I remained unscratched.
What happened
the next morning, I saw my dad waiting by the car. And to my surprise, the car was as good as new, with no dents, no bumps, nothing. My father told me that no one had fixed the car. It was so weird and confusing and scary.
Possessed.
After that incident, I never drove the car alone after 10 in the evening. And now, almost a year later, I still dream about the accident and the girl.
I probably wouldn't drive that car at all, truthfully. Please consider liking and subscribing to their channel. Of course, of course. I hope you enjoyed the video. Look at this, basically an hour. Please, 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 as always, go over to I Am Our Scary Tales page, subscribe, like some videos, comment, be all over there. And then go over to SSG Animations videos. I said I Am Our Scary Tales. Yep. Then go over to SSG Animation videos. Then you do the same. Subscribe, like, hop in their comments, the whole shebang. You know? Enjoy both pages. Join both families. And yeah. Out of all 6 videos, which one were your favorites? Let me know in the comments. I feel like the first one here, was it the first one or the second one? Let me see. Yeah, the first one here ate up, as well as the first one in this video with what little midget man slicing people up, that ate up. Because based on a true, he killed 61 people. And then I Am Our Scary Tales, my favorite of that one is Grandma Mildred, because that ain't your damn granny. And why that little boy thought he was big shit breaking up in her house. They need to explain more, because why she got shotguns up there with darts in them, knocking people out. How many people have broken into your house? And how many bodies you have? Because you only sent this boy with me because you know that I'm here trying to distract you. You know? That's the only reason why you sent him home with his friend. If he wasn't there, you would have killed that little boy. I know it. Let me know which one was your favorite in the comments. And until next time, you guys, I love y'all. Bye.